Let's address the elephants in the room. Yes, I did get a haircut, and yes, my shirt unfortunately blends into the walls in this little co-working space that I'm recording in. So two unfortunate things happened. Well, I actually like my haircut, so I guess that's not unfortunate, but it's unfortunate that I didn't plan the setting and the wardrobe a little bit better. But I did get a haircut. Funny thing about a haircut is I always get nervous and I don't know how to describe what kind of haircut I want to get. I'm just kind of like, I would like to just chop it all off, maybe low to mid skin fade on the back and the sides, just clean it up top, like trim it down and thin it out. That would be fantastic. And then they were like, well, we got to get a little bit more specific than that. Do you have any pictures? I show them pictures. And one time I try to explain the way I want my hair, and the stylist, no shade to Style America, of course, because if they ever want to sponsor the podcast or any of my TikTok videos, I love you with my whole heart. But one time I was at Style America, the stylist asked me what I wanted. I tried to describe it, and in the middle of the haircut, it just kind of wasn't working out. It wasn't the vision. And then she started suggesting some things like, "Do you want a flat top?" What do you No, I don't want a flat top. No, I don't want that. So we're kinda, continuing to cut the hair. Then she goes, "I think you would look good with frosted tips." I don't think I would look good with frosted tips. I appreciate that though. And then she's cutting the hair. It's really not working out. This is actually like the messiest haircut I've ever gotten. And eventually, I did feel bad saying this, but eventually I said, I was thinking about buzzing my hair, coming into this, so maybe we can just do like a buzz cut. And then she kind of like sighed, and then that's when I felt really bad because all of the work that we put into this almost flat top with frosted tips style went out the window because I just said, let's buzz it. And that's the last time I buzzed my hair. That was like years ago. And now I've either grown my hair out or gotten a similar hairstyle to this. Really fun. Always an adventure getting a haircut. I always get a little nervous and then I settle back in. Like hair always grows back, and my hair especially grows so fast that I shouldn't even worry about it. So now I'm just worried about my shirt matching the walls. Welcome in, everyone. Sorry for the podcast being a little bit late. I've been busy/lazy. When I haven't been busy, the time that I could be recording videos or recording the podcast, I have just sat on the couch and scrolled on my phone or watched a movie, and I'm very sorry about that. But we're here. We're going to talk about the week in movies, what I watched recently, and then answer some questions that you have all submitted. Really appreciate everyone for submitting questions. I believe we're up to about 12. So that's really exciting. It's gonna be a good one. I really appreciate everyone for being here. So we're gonna get into that, and let's talk about movies. Just a heads up, just a warning, we will talk a lot about Eddington. That is like the movie of the week. That's what everyone's talking about. That's what I keep talking about. It's a movie that I love discussing, even if I don't love the movie. So we will talk about Eddington a lot, and then we will go into the questions. All right, let's talk about Eddington, the new film by Ari Aster. I know we can discuss a lot of the movies that I watched this week and just go in order, but let's not bury the lead here. Eddington, the new film by Ari Aster, the same director as Hereditary, Midsommar, and Beau's Afraid. I did watch Beau's Afraid like a week before watching Eddington, just because I'm a little bit of a completist, not necessarily, but with contemporary modern directors, with directors that are working today, I definitely want to catch up on their work, especially if it's not like just a big filmography. So I wanted to watch Beau's Afraid, and I like Beau's Afraid. So that means I like Hereditary. I really like Hereditary. I really like Midsommar, and I like Beau's Afraid. I love that he made Beau's Afraid, even if I don't love the movie. I like the movie. I love that he made it just solely because critically acclaimed movies like Midsommar and Hereditary are great. I mean, you're having a lot of success as a director, and then you turn around and make a very personal 3-hour odyssey that is not going to totally land for the general public, and it's just like a movie that Ari Aster wanted to make. So I like that a lot. I mean, directors do that a lot where they make these super personal or ambitious films after having a few successes under their belt. Now we come back with Eddington, which is also perceived as like another big swing. And I guess it is in a way because no one is tackling the COVID-19 pandemic in this way. There have been COVID 19 like kind of pieces and things that we've seen and movies that haven't been like haven't been made that have like garnered the same attention that Eddington has. I would say like Bo Burnham's Inside is the last kind of like COVID-19 art piece that we received that a lot of people, a lot of people in like the bubble that I'm in talk about. And I think Bo Burnham's Inside is great. I really enjoyed that. So it's not so much that I don't think it's too soon to make COVID-19 art. I don't think that at all. I actually don't think it's ever too soon to create art because artists and art just draw from recent events and draw from how they're feeling. And this is a movie in Eddington that Ari Aster was feeling a lot in June 2020 when he started writing Eddington. So he started writing Eddington, and then he did Beau's Afraid. While he was editing Beau's Afraid, he started picking Eddington back up and started to really pursue this project. Eddington, I guess I will just, if we don't know what the movie is, I will read the plot. In May of 2020, a standoff between a small town sheriff and mayor sparks a powder keg as neighbor is pitted against neighbor in Eddington, New Mexico. This takes place in May 2020. We're about 5 years removed from May 2020, and people are still feeling the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. I know people have strong feelings about how Eddington is depicted, and I have some very strong feelings as well. But I do want to explain that my reasons for not liking the movie aren't because it is satirizing both sides. This is a movie that definitely does that. It takes a look at performative white liberals. It takes a look at white conservative conspiracy theorists. So it takes a look at like both sides, and that's not where my issue lies with Eddington. My issue is that it's ultimately a 2.5 hour movie that shows you this time and shows you how people are without any real depth or nuance as to why people are this way, or taking a look at bigger systems that are at play that made people behave this way. So it's not doing anything bold or risky or anything fresh with this source material or with this historical event that happened and it's continued to affect people. So it's not doing anything fresh with it, and with a subject this large, and with the things that you are going for ultimately feeling empty. I think that's a little bit of a failure on Ari Aster's part. Now, you can interpret the movie as, well, it is bold and risky for even putting this on a screen, and I can't argue with how you feel, but I don't think I don't think stating the obvious or stating things that we have dealt with countless amount of times or discussed a countless amount of times is bold. I don't think that's risky at all. And Ari Aster is already working on more films and maybe even doing a sequel to Eddington or having characters in Eddington appear in his next movie. That's what he discussed on the Big Picture podcast. Like I don't think it's necessarily risky to just, again, show the obvious and not have anything fresh to say about it. But after reading interviews and hearing Ari Aster talk about this movie, one idea in Eddington that shines through, and that's the most effective part, is that everyone is wrapped up in their own conspiracy to be able to communicate and connect. That is the idea that I like in Eddington, and there's another idea that I like in Eddington that I will explain as well as we talk about this movie. But yes, I mean, everyone is wrapped up in their own conspiracy, in their own thoughts about the world and about this time, that no one's able to get on the same page. No one's able to stay on topic or come to some kind of common ground. So that is a idea, and how it's handled in the movie is really effective because it's shown through people talking through glass. It's shown by people communicating through social media instead of actually speaking to each other one on one. Another strong part in Edmonton is showing the anxiety and the isolation of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's through the wide shots of people standing in empty spaces. It's showing the empty landscapes of Eddington, New Mexico. It's also through an eerie and minimal score. Guys, don't get me wrong. There is good things happening in Eddington, but I will explain why I do not like it. The movie is shot beautifully. It has a great leading performance in Joaquin Phoenix. And I actually don't think that Emma Stone is wasted, Austin Butler is wasted. They kind of serve as another idea in the movie that I don't think if they were to be given more time, that it was going I think it would just bloat the movie even more, if I'm being honest. If they were just given more time, I think we would kinda get away from what Ari Aster is ultimately trying to say, and what Ari Aster is trying to say that we are divided. This is a movie about division and how we're not able to communicate. That's what he has said, and I just don't think, I'll explain. I don't think Ari Aster, a common thing that's being said about Eddington is that uh, this is provocative. This is meant to make people mad and upset. And I don't think that at all. When I hear Ari Aster talk about this movie, and when he talks about how this movie is about how people are divided, if you are making a movie that is provocative for the sake of drawing emotion and knowing what you're doing, you're going to create more division, then you're being hypocritical. So I don't think Ari Aster, if I want to think like Ari Aster did not make this movie to make people mad. It's taking shots at both liberals and conservatives. That's not what's bothering me about the movie. It's the fact that if we did view this movie as provocative for the sake of drawing emotion, then I think Ari Aster failed at what he's going for. Because I don't think he made it with the intent of being provocative or of making people mad. Um, because he wants to make a movie about division and how we need to be able to re-engage and reconnect. And then if he is trying to be provocative, then he's a hypocrite, because you can't say that, oh man, just people are so divided in this country. No one's able to really communicate anymore because everyone's so wrapped up in themselves. And then be provocative and create more division. Then that is hypocritical to me. I think where people believe this movie is intended to make people mad is because it's only showing how people were in this time and not diving into depth or handled with any nuance as to why we have become able to connect. It shies away from anything about how harmful rhetoric or leadership played a role into how people are. I believe satire, like effective satire, it takes aim at bigger systems, and that is what's risky. But showing just how people are, that we already know how these people are, these ideas aren't new. But if you take aim at bigger systems, that is what's going to be riskier than what we get with Eddington. I'll give the movie credit for another idea that I think worked really well in the movie, and that's the idea that while we are focused on things that are happening between each other, our own conspiracies and how the world is, like we are kind of we're not aware that larger tech and AI is looming in the background and is continuing to progress, and leaders are continuing to push for these like these again these like larger facilities and AI. So that looms in the background while things are happening. That's a really good idea, and I think some parts of it are handled really well, but there's a part in it that doesn't work necessarily well for me. That the protesting no, I'm sorry, displaying protests and mandates as things that are taking away from the idea that larger tech is looming in the background. I don't think those are necessarily the issues that I would go with. I mean, who am I to say that Ari Aster should make this kind of movie? I know that's essentially kind of what I'm doing in parts of my criticism of the movie, but I think that the protests and mandates were essential during this time. They were important during this time, and kind of setting those up in a way that is viewed as like a distraction, um, while larger tech is happening in the background. That's how the movie played. That's how the movie like played in my mind, or like played out while I was watching it both times that I watched it, because I watched it once. I'm very interested in this movie. I want to think critically about this movie, so I watched it again, and displaying the mandates and the protests. They also don't have, again, anything to really add as to why people are acting the way that they're acting. Just in my opinion. Again, the movie's not saying anything fresh or new with a 2.5 hour runtime. I'd hope Ari Aster was able to convey something more meaningful here. not taking any bold looks at either side of one's political affiliation, because again, we know that white liberals can be performative. We know that white conservatives are just can be like really conspiratorial. I believe that's a word, but they can be wrapped up in conspiracy theories and dismissive of other people. Like, we know that these exist on both sides. So instead of using this last hour of the movie, so the first hour and a half, it's diving in to like this social and political satire on both sides. But instead of using the last hour to flesh these ideas out and really complete the satire or dive more into depth and explain why we are the way that we are right now, or why we were the way that we were back in 2020, instead of doing that, he goes with an ending. He goes with a final hour that he said, this is from Ari Aster, he said he wanted the movie to feel like Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto. To me, that feels like it avoids the satire that we've been seeing for the first hour and a half entirely. That is what makes the movie cowardly to me, because you essentially are just like, here's how people are. Also, the last hour, I want to make really cool. Oh, okay. And then, we have this kind of like bleak ending to the movie that I won't necessarily spoil, because I know people maybe haven't seen it yet, or if you want me to spoil it, I'm not sure. But there's this really kind of like bleak ending to the movie that kind of goes back to the beginning of the movie and what we see a little bit in the middle about larger tech. So it's kind of like trying to wrap itself up in that way, but the last hour of the movie essentially avoids anything that Ari Aster was trying to go for, and to me, that's cowardly. And again, there's a lot of good craft work here, but it still feels like a mess. It still feels very confused, like how I explained about Ari Aster's intent versus how the public is seeing this movie. And again, not showing just showing something we have already discussed and seen countless times over the last 5 years without adding anything new to the conversation is not bold, it's not risky. And if Ari Aster is not trying to be bold or risky, and he's just trying to just show how people were during this time, again, it's essentially just being like, here's how we are. And okay, I see how we are all the time. Like, I see how we are all the time on social media when I scroll, anything like that. I mean, maybe it's my fault. I don't know. But again, we see it. We see it all play out. Again, there's good craft work here. I have it at 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, just out of respect for how the movie looks, for the leading performances, for how some of the ideas are communicated, and just the other 2.5 where I take off of the movie is because it feels very confused. It feels like a mess. And I honestly feel like I understand the movie, but again, maybe I don't. I like hearing people's interpretations of the movie. I like how people talk about this movie. I do wish, like, how when people say like this is a masterpiece or say it's genius, I wish there was or people, and then we'll both sides it as well. And if people say like they don't like the movie, I wish we could talk about further why we don't like it, or further why we just examine why we think it's a masterpiece, examine why we don't like this movie. And that's what I've tried to do over the last like week since I've seen Eddington. Like I saw it, react, sat with it for an hour, then wrote the review, kind of engaged with other people about the movie, talked with people, sorted through my own thoughts. I heard what Ari Aster has to say about the movie. I've read interviews. I've read people's interpretations. Like, I have really tried with this movie. So it's created a lot of great discussion, mostly great discussion. Ultimately, I couldn't get there, but I know a lot of people in my life that love this movie, that really like it. Some people don't like it, but let me know what you think of Eddington, because I think it's a really fun conversation to have. This movie sparks a lot of like great conversation, so I really want to talk about this movie. I will continue to talk about this movie. I don't think like I'm getting emotional while talking about it, even if I don't like it. I get passionate about movies and talking about them. I get passionate about how we discuss movies, and that's the same way with Sinners, the same way with Materialists. There are 3 movies in 2025 that I just really enjoy talking about. That's Eddington, that's Materialist, and that's Sinners. So credit to those 3 movies. Now, let's talk about what we watched in the rest of the week. So we started off the week with Raging Bull from 1980. Had never seen this. I've been into sports and sports movies for a while because I used to work in sports radio. Just had never seen Raging Bull, surprisingly. And it is one of the greatest sports movies ever made. It's fantastic. I bought it on the Criterion sale. I got it in 4K. The movie looks beautiful. Can't wait to dive more into like the commentary of it and just read more about Raging Bull. But it is a fantastic, fantastic movie. Highly encourage if you're into sports movies, then check this one out. Bring It On is still my favorite sports movie of all time, but Raging Bull, you got to acknowledge that it is one of the best sports movies ever made. After that, we watched SLC Punk from 1998. And this is a recommendation by Olivia and has been for months. Finally got around to it, and I can say that I did enjoy the movie. I don't like love it or, had the most fun with this movie, but this movie is a little bit more of a thoughtful approach to punk culture than the surface will lead you to believe. Because I think on the surface, when you watch this movie, it's got like a fun energy to it. It's got an expressive lead performances like Matthew Lillard, who I think can do no wrong. But it portrays what it's like to be punk, the ups, the downs, and how ultimately we're all living in the real world. But it's not telling the viewer to stop pushing back against the systems at play or to give up being punk, just showing what it's like to grow within a subculture that has its own set of problems in it. Again, that's like a very thoughtful approach to punk culture that I did not expect while watching SLC Punk, but that's just kind of how, when I read interpretations and thought about how I felt about the movie, I kind of blended those, and I was like, you know what, it's just like a more nuanced movie than I expected. After that, Seven Samurai from 1954. This is my first Akira Kurosawa movie. Often regarded as one of the best movies ever made, just in the history of movies. And I give it a 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I can see why this is regarded as one of the best movies ever made. So incredibly well shot, well directed, especially the battle scenes. I actually feel like this is like a 3 hour movie or a 3 hour and 20 minute movie. I can revisit this movie. Just sit with it, watch it. It is that good. I bought it in 4K. It was a blind buy. I had $25 in rewards, so it's okay. I got it for $5. Now, does it help that I picked up 2 other Criterions while I was there? Not necessarily, but really enjoyed Seven Samurai. After that, we watched Airplane from 1980. This really fun comedy. It's nice to watch a fun comedy after you've been watching some heavy things. And Airplane just provided like a really good time. The puns are the best part. I say unfortunately my kind of humor because I know people view puns as like cheesy and some people don't find them funny, but I really do. And yeah, Airplane's just like so many jokes per minute that not all of them land, but some of them do. And when they do land, it feels really good to just laugh and have a good time with the movie. After that, we're back to the heavy. We're back to the heavy hitters. We're back to the heavy content. Like we watched 1990s Close Up. This movie is one of the best movies about the power of movies that I've seen. Often we get like the power of movies through the lens of like Hollywood. This is not that. This is a movie that just makes you think, is film bigger than us and how we want to feel bigger than what we are. And this is blending fiction and documentary style filmmaking. I love when movies do that. Another movie that does that is Hide and Seek. If no one has seen Hide and Seek, I highly encourage everyone to watch that. But Close Up, yeah, Close Up's awesome. Close Up's really, now this is a thought provoking movie. Yeah, Close Up's really good, really good. Highly recommend. Same director as Taste of Cherry. If anyone has seen Taste of Cherry, I recently watched that last week. Just great stuff. After that, 2006, The Fall, a movie that is visually stunning that I did not feel a lot of things for. A movie about the power of storytelling that I didn't really see a lot of like storytelling in, even though like it is someone telling a story to someone else. But hey, there were some like visual there was some like there's some scenes in it where the visuals are just so stunning that I looked around, and I'm watching this movie alone in my apartment, but like I'm looking around to see if anyone else is seeing this. And yeah, The Fall is that beautiful, and I think people will find it to be like more emotional, or yeah, just more emotional than I did. So I do recommend The Fall from 2006 because of the visuals, and because I think you'll feel a little bit more than I felt at the time. But a movie that I did feel a lot of feelings for and a lot of emotions while watching was 1952's Ikaru by Akira Kurosawa. This is my second Kurosawa film. I bought this on Blu-ray on Criterion. I don't believe they have a 4K, but I did buy this in Blu-ray. And this is a movie that's very personal to me because it's a man who learns he has cancer and kind of dealing with his own mortality and reflecting on his own life. And as someone whose mom went through stage 3 colon cancer and she's cancer free now, everything's good. As someone who kind of experienced someone who they love in their life go through something like that, and then you're watching someone go through that as well, all of the same like experiences and feelings and emotions that that our character is going through, I saw in my mom. Like it's so it's a very touching and personal movie to me. That's why I gave it, initially a 4.5, but after thinking about it, I gave it a 5 because it feels like a very special movie that just made me think about life, like how life feels like so short, and too precious, like to be hateful and to be scared, and it's too meaningful to be wasted, and just evoking all of those emotions is really special. So Ikaru, 1952, got 5 stars for me. And another 5-star movie for me, Love Jones. I love this movie, and it's because I will admit it's my bias because I love romantic movies. Rom-coms are is like my absolute favorite genre. This is like a rom-com, just more purely of a romantic movie. Even though this movie is hilarious, I laughed more than I thought I would with Love Jones. But this is I gave it 5 stars because it feels like just a perfect romantic movie. The chemistry between the leads, the performances, the soundtrack, the writing in this movie, like it's all perfect. I think it's hilarious and sweet and frustrating in all the right moments. There were times when I was watching it at home that I just kind of like I sat up and I was just locked in like this. I just sat up and locked in when I got toward the final like 15 minutes of this movie. So if it has me engaged like that, it had me laughing like that, it had me tearing up and frustrated at like character choices and um just really feeling all these emotions. Yeah, it's 5 stars, and I actually can't wait to revisit this movie. I feel like it's a movie I could just throw on. Before that, but my next log on Letterboxd was The Holy Mountain from 1973, another subscriber pick in the week, and just a movie that I feel is like it is wild, it is grotesque, but I don't think it's at the sake of just being those things. Like it's not trying to just be shocking and grotesque for the sake of being that. The Holy Mountain is a movie kind of about stripping away the big systems and the like fascism and capitalism, kind of like stripping those away and just focusing on like rebirth and how do we take down these systems. I believe it's kind of like about this leader who tricks like rich, powerful people and promises them this idea of like the holy mountain, but you have to get rid of all of your possessions and all of your wealth in order to do so. And then when you get to the holy mountain, it's actually a nightmare and it's not what was promised. So I think that's what I read, or kind of how the interpretation of the holy mountain is supposed to go, because there's not a lot of dialogue in this movie. It's just a lot of scenes packed with so many like religious and societal themes in them that you're like you're really thinking about the movie while you're watching it and trying to understand what's happening. And so yeah, the Holy Mountain has a lot going in it, and it is grotesque and it is very wild, and there is some animal abuse that people have mentioned that just of course hasn't aged well. So yeah, aged well. Well, it's just flat out bad. So there is like, behind the scenes stuff that is wrong with the Holy Mountain. Uh just when we talk about, like, it being wild and grotesque, there are some movies that I feel like are just that to be that, but The Holy Mountain does have something to say at the end of the day. So I actually did enjoy it. I don't typically like grotesque and wild things like The Holy Mountain, but, I there's some value in here, so I like it. And then, well, we rewatched Eddington and still didn't like it after The Holy Mountain, but, a very special thing happened yesterday or happened this week, and that was Derek, Semi Views, got an invitation to an advanced screening by Neon to watch together. And it was in the city that I'm in. And he, traveled down and invited me because I'm in the city and we had been mutuals for a while and just really cool for him to think of me. So I really appreciate Derek for that. So we spent the day Criterion shopping. We got dinner, then we went to a movie, then went on our separate ways, and it was great. The day was great. Well, I hope Derek had as much fun as I had, but really great meeting and chopping it up about movies and life. So fantastic to do that. Then we sat down, watched together a movie that comes out in like a week. Um, and this movie's pretty good. I mean, the movie's good. I gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd. Mostly effective blend of body horror and comedy. Really like how it's not afraid to go there when it needs to as a body horror film. Alison Brie is like the standout for me. Alison Brie I find hilarious, and her line delivery and timing is just perfect. There's a bit of an issue though. I'm curious to see how people feel about this movie when it comes out. Um, there's a bit of an issue in the third act where I felt there's a reveal that I don't think necessarily was warranted or needed, and I felt like the movie would have worked better if it was taken out and just was more ambiguous. So I think the movie could have worked a little bit better like that. But hey, not my movie. I didn't make the movie, so Together's pretty good. Yeah, I give it 3 stars, and I feel like that's solid. It's not like leaning toward a 2.5 or anything like that. I had a good time with it, and just really appreciate Derek for inviting me to the screening. Yeah, those are the movies that I watched in the last week. Let me know, what are your favorites from the last week? What were your least favorite watches from the last week? I am really curious. Now let's get into the Q&A, the submissions for the week. We had 14 submissions, which is amazing. I'm always kind of blown away when people submit questions and comments for the podcast. So thank you to everyone who has submitted a question or a comment for this week. Now let's just get into them. What do you think of theater re-releases? Do you think they're a cheap way for studios to make a quick buck, or a way for fans to see a favorite on the big screen? I love them. I actually see no downside to theater re-releases. Now, if they were like taking up screens where you could put a newer movie in, then I guess I could see where the problem lies there. But for like a cheap way for studios to make a quick buck, it's not how it feels to me. I mean, of course, like, studios want to make money and it's a business and everything like that, but just ultimately it's like a kind of a win-win. They make money and then we get to see movies that we missed out on the big screen. So I think it's a win-win. I don't view it as like in a cynical way. And if I were to think of it in a cynical way, I would kind of be like, well, it's taking up a screen where it could go to another like newer film. But again, like, these are films that are either like important to film history or just, yeah, movies that we have missed out on. So I've been to some great re-releases like Jaws and Back to the Future 2, where I just had a great time while watching them. I had never experienced those on the big screen, and those were my first time watching them in general. And I love that they did that, and I love that they continue to do that. One of my theaters locally is showing Citizen Kane. So if you've never seen Citizen Kane before, you are able to watch it on the big screen, and that's just like a local independent theater that's running in my city. That's a fantastic thing, and they do that all the time. So that's a great. They just did a restoration of happiness, like, so it's. I think it's really great. I don't see much wrong with it, but I would love to know if there are like some criticisms about theater re-releases. Let's get to another comment from Julia. Says, "You're so awesome and amazing, Lewis." I just wanted to read that. Thanks, Julia. I appreciate that. Let's get to the next question. Thanks. Has a rewatch ever drastically changed your opinion on a film? This is a great question. I think the first one that comes to mind is the Batman, because I got a lot of heat for my Batman review of 2.5, and some people thought, like, so I saw Batman 3 years ago, 2022, and I didn't really care for the movie. I gave it like a 2.5, and people once I started making content and people became aware of like more of my movie opinions, they were upset at my Batman rating. So I rewatched it. I was like, you know what? I'll revisit it now. Fresh eyes. I've got a different outlook on movies in general, and rewatched it. I gave it a 4, and that wasn't because of the pressure to like the Batman. Honestly, to me, it would be funnier if I gave it a lower rating. Like that's just something that I would find funny. But I yeah I actually liked the Batman, and I think from 2.5 to a 4 is pretty drastic. So I would think that a rewatch on the Batman is like the kind of like drastically changed my opinion on the film, even though I still don't like the third act, but whatever. Why are you so old? Thank you. I don't know. Time, I suppose. What country outside of the US is your favorite cinema wise? What country's cinema would you like to explore more? Thank you for the question. Great question, actually. And what country outside the US is my favorite cinema wise? It's probably France. I I find myself gravitating more towards, like, French movies. I mean, Portrait of a Lady on Fire is a top 10 all-time movie for me, and just I picked up Beau Travail, and I love Taste of Things, and there's a lot of other French films that I'm leaving out, but, um, thought Anatomy of a Fall was great. Like, there's a lot of French films that I like. I think Passages as well is another French film. So and The Beast is, like, a French-Canadian film, I believe. So, like, I think France would be like the country that is my favorite cinema wise. What country's cinema would you like to explore more? Interesting question. I'm trying to think. Hmm. I'm trying to think of like what country cinema would I like to explore more of. Maybe I don't know. Can I Can I say maybe India? I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like that's a country that probably has like a lot of great films. I mean, every country has a lot of great films to offer, so I'll say India. I like more Indian films. Probably explore that a little bit more, just because I feel like I never really dove into them, and that's the first one that comes to mind. So I'll just say that. Hey, Unc. Same question as last week, but what movie has your favorite soundtrack and what movie has your least fave, either based on how they felt the movie or just songs you like better, I guess. That is from Audrey. Thank you for the question, Audrey. My favorite soundtrack. I don't have a movie. Sorry, I don't have a movie that has my favorite soundtrack. Like I don't go back and listen to movie soundtracks. I don't go back and listen to movie scores. I do like in terms of like soundtrack. I don't have an answer for you, but in terms of score, I have a favorite score, and that is the Phantom Thread score from Johnny Greenwood. That score is fantastic, and it's a score that I will just listen to while I'm doing work or while I'm just going about my day like that. So while I'm like wired to not listen to scores and soundtracks in my free time, that is a score that I do revisit. So Johnny Greenwood, Phantom Thread, that is a fantastic score in a movie that I listen to. I just love. I mean, I think it's very pleasant on the ears, and I think that it emulates sewing in the same way that Phantom Thread does. Like the score is sewn in throughout the movie, and that's just kind of how it feels and connects to me. So while watching the movie and listening to the House of Woodcock and that score, how it's woven into the movie, the same way Daniel Day Lewis's character would construct a dress is, I think that's awesome, and it made me think of scores in a different way. And again, my history with movies, my background with movies is like more modern. Like so there are definitely other movies that we could point to with scores that have done that um have done what Phantom Thread has done, but I'm just unaware of them and I don't know. But in terms of like modern movies, yeah, I mean, Johnny Greenwood's score is awesome. Julia, what's up? What's your least favorite genre? Well, I guess the genre that I watch the least is westerns. Um, I wouldn't say it's like I haven't seen a western that I don't like, but in terms of the genre that I watch the least, it would be westerns. Thank you, Julia, for the question. Which movie feels the most personal to you, like it just wasn't a story, but a reflection of your own inner world? And that is from Lazy. Thanks, Lazy, for the question. What movie feels the most personal to you? Oh man, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of movies that remind me of like my own personal life. And We Live in Time from last year was a very personal movie because again, my mom went through stage 3 colon cancer, and we see Florence Pugh's character go through something similar, and kind of like the idea of like trying to be your own person and having a relationship feel fractured at times, like that feels very personal to me. Kind of like seeing my mom's experience going through that, 50-50, like, these movies that are dealing with cancer in a way, those feel very personal. I'm trying to think, like, I honestly, like, I've been very privileged and lucky not to have, like, gone through any, like, life-defining events other than, like, being in a long relationship and being cheated on, like, I mean, that's, like, c'est la vie, that's life, so I'm, like, thinking of movies like that, but again, when I watch movies like that, they don't, like, deeply affect me, like, even though I love romance, like, I love every kind of, like, movie that's dealing with romance, whether that's, like, heartbreaking or fun, whatever it may be. So, I guess We Live in Time, 50-50, Ikaru was another movie that felt very personal to me. Now, in terms of like movies that have like motivated me personally, Spotlight is one because I love journalism. I'm very passionate about journalism. That's what I have my degree in. And when I watch Spotlight, when I watch the people do the work in the movie, and that's what I love about Spotlight, it's like a journalism movie that is doing journalism. Um, so I feel very motivated seeing like how they're approaching the story, how they are just really motivated to get the story right. Like I feel so motivated after watching Spotlight. So that feels very personal to me as well. Thanks, Lazy, for the question. I hope I'm answering these okay. All right, Nico, what's up? Do you know of any other acapella movies like Pitch Perfect? No. Pitch Perfect is the only one and should be the only one. I'm sure there are movies that exist out there. Let me actually try to Google this while I should have done the prep, but I didn't. Let's see, acapella. What do we type in? Acapella movies? Acapella movies like Pitch Perfect popped up. Okay, that's the AI overview. I don't know if I really trust. We got Metacritic. Movies like Pitch Perfect to watch next. Okay. Let's see if there are any other acapella movies that we can watch. Booksmart? No. Great movie. School of Rock? No, they're starting a band. They got instruments. Sing Street? Again, instruments. But great. These are all great movies. Bridesmaids? I see why you would put it in the movies like Pitch Perfect, but again, not acapella and also not funny. That's my hot take. Easy A, another like fun teen comedy, like, but no, Easy A, not acapella. Blockers, not acapella. Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. Probably the closest that we've gotten, but not acapella. Mean Girls, again, great movie, classic, not acapella. Work It. Hmm. I don't. Is that? It's more of like dancing. I'm seeing, and is that Sabrina Carpenter's in this movie? Okay. Uh, Bring It On, not acapella, but best sports movie of all time. So really what we're learning is that Pitch Perfect is one of one. It's a classic, it's a masterpiece. No other movie is even attempting to do what Pitch Perfect does, and it shouldn't, because that is the definitive movie, but a definitive acapella movie. Nico, thank you for the question. Glad we can explore that. If movies didn't exist, what other medium of entertainment would you choose? That is a question from Julia. Thank you, Julia, for the question. If movies didn't exist, what other medium of entertainment would you choose? Probably music. I love music a lot. Now more of like hip hop and R&B. So I probably, if I wasn't talking about movies, I would probably make an account. Lewis likes music. Um, can you talk about the film Chicago and what it meant to you? Thank you for this question. Chicago's a very personal movie to me as well. Probably could have listed it under or used it as an answer for Lazy's question. But yeah, Chicago. What it means to me is I'll just explain that I was in theater for a few years, and that's not going to surprise anyone. But I was in theater for a few years. Now it was more like speech and debate in high school, where we went from school to school competing, where you could be partnered up with somebody performing like a 10-minute long humorous play or dramatic play, or you could be by yourself as multiple characters or as one character doing again, a funny play or a dramatic play, and you would go and you would compete at competitions from school to school. But when you weren't doing that, you would be in plays. You would, yeah, be in murder mysteries that we put on for the school. So I was in theater where I did the competition side and I did just plays and murder mysteries. So yeah, that was like a very fun time in my life. But I was never like really passionate about like the other like things that people in theater were really passionate about, like musicals. So, but I would hang out with, my friends and we were all close. So we would all hang out. They would be in the car or be at home. They would all watch Rent or Chicago. Those are the two movies that they watched. And I never really understood it. I didn't. I just was more interested in sports and I had fun doing theater um but I was more interested in other things. But they were really interested in musicals, and I saw like how passionate they were, and they just knew every word to every song in Chicago, and I would see just how much fun they would have just going back and forth on lines and saying the lines while watching the movie. And I never really like understood it though. And when I step back and I kind of like think about the friends and think about just how rare it is to be passionate about something, like watching Chicago now and liking musicals now, it just really makes me appreciate Chicago even more because I think about my friends who were very passionate about Chicago and musicals in general. And now that I have more of an appreciation for musicals than I did in the past, like just thinking about all those things makes Chicago like a meaningful film to me. And I appreciate the question because I like thinking about that time in my life, and um yeah, I like thinking about those friends. They're cool, and I hope they're doing well. In your opinion, what makes satire successful versus unsuccessful? Now, we did get this question. I wonder if it's in light of the Eddington conversation, because I say that the satire in Eddington is unsuccessful, maybe successful in a way that like, whoa, this is how people are. But what makes satire to me, especially in art and movies and dealing with like heavy topics, successful is when it has something bigger to say or fresh to say um, about people or about what it's satirizing. Like again, like Bamboozled is a movie by Spike Lee that is heavy satire, that's unapologetic, that knows exactly what it's doing and how it's satirizing not only the public for playing a role into how media and film have harmfully depicted black people. I know I use the same sentence every single time, but that is the takeaway from Bamboozled. But it's also taking aim at Hollywood. And again, you're Spike Lee, like a well-known director. You are working in this industry and you are going at Hollywood. You know, same thing that landed like Damon Chazelle in director's jail, like going making a more um like darker movie about Hollywood. But like, Spike Lee was able to take aim at like a bigger system in Hollywood and include like that historical significance, show real footage. I mean, that's like a Spike Lee thing to do, but like he's able to kind of take all of the history and then display it in a more modern time and then take aim not only the public but also Hollywood. And it's just not only like this is how people are and nothing much else to say. Like these are very like real and harmful things like the COVID-19 pandemic was, or it still is. And so it's like, I think Spike Lee was able to know exactly what he was going for, take aim at bigger systems, and then just be really unapologetic and not let up on the gas, not avoid it. And that's what Ari Aster does. I'm sorry, it's just what he does. Ari Aster avoids it in Eddington, especially in that last hour. So that's what I think. What to me makes satire successful versus unsuccessful. All right. Well, I guess when we're talking about movies and art, I mean, I could be off base. Who knows? Hey, Mephisto. Thank you for the question. So, what is harder to rate? Give a 5 star or a half star? that's, that's a good question. What's harder to give? Half star, honestly. Half star is really hard. The movie's got to be like offensively bad for it to be a half star. Even Amelia Perez, I've got it at a 1. But like, and that movie is like, man. Green Book is another one that's like, man. But I would still probably give it like a 1 or something like that. But like, 5-star movies are probably easier to give it to because I can throw on a classic. I can throw on like so many amazing movies and just movies. I mean, I have so many more 5 stars than I have half stars on Letterboxd. So I feel like to me, it's harder to give a half star rating than a 5-star rating. But yeah, half star just feels like whenever I see that rating on a movie, I'm like, that movie's gotta be offensively bad to get that rating. Because you can always try to find, like, redeemable qualities about a movie, but other than that, it's just gotta be really bad. And the last question that we have here is from Neo. Hey, Neo, thank you for the question. What movie that has left the biggest impact on you? You went around thinking about it for days, weeks, maybe even months. Yeah, I guess we discussed some movies that were like that. But there are movies that have had me thinking for days and months, and that I randomly just think about while I'm out just doing things and out like grocery shopping or working out, and I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, oh, that movie. And some movies that I haven't necessarily brought up yet. I saw the TV Glow as a movie like that. I think I saw the TV Glow as an incredible, incredible movie. Um, I will also say Nickel Boys. These are 2 movies from 2024 that I thought were the best movies of 2024. Sorry to Dune Part 2 and the Dune truthers out there. That's an incredible spectacle of a movie. But I think what I saw the TV Glow and Nickel Boys were able to do were just be really impactful for a lot of people. And they're, both kind of feeling a little bit more innovative and can be served as inspirations for other filmmakers, even if these movies were inspired themselves. So yeah, I think those 2 movies are movies that I think about constantly or like just sporadically, whatever it may be. I know those 2 words are totally different. I would say more sporadically. Like I would say like just every now and then I'll be like, whoa. Um, I'll also say like I don't think After Sun is a movie like that for me, but I know a lot of people are like that. Like, it's a movie that deeply affected me where after watching it, I had to take, like, 30 minutes to really process everything, and I just kinda sat in silence. But, maybe After Sun for people is a movie that left a big impact. Um, I think Moonlight's another movie like that where I continue to think about that movie. Yeah, I just think there are some powerful movies out there, and movies are beautiful, they're powerful, and that's what I love to discuss. So I really appreciate the question, Neo, and I appreciate everyone for asking questions. I mean, what movies to you mean a lot if you made it this far? I really appreciate it. But thank you to everyone who listened to the podcast. Sorry again, it was a little late. I really appreciate you all for being here and for listening if you made it this far. And yeah, I just hope that we can continue to get better at the podcasting thing. Again, I'm really sorry about just the same color shirt as the background. I should have been more thoughtful about it. But yes, I hope everyone takes care of themselves, drink plenty of water, watch a great movie, and get those 8 hours of sleep. Sleep is really important. So I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much for listening.